Hey guys, my name is Sean Schoenmakers and I'm a business coach with ActionCOACH. I'm here at the Garland Chamber, and when I work with small business owners, I typically work with them on many different aspects of their business. But today we're going to be focusing on time management as well as your marketing and lead generation. So when we look at time management, which we actually call time mastery, there's three main areas that we look at within that subject, and that is self-mastery, planning mastery, and delegation mastery. When we start delving into self-mastery, one of the questions we really want to ask ourselves is, do we know where our time is going? So some of the questions like how many hours per day and how many hours per week are you currently working? One of the questions we want to ask ourselves. Also, what are the bigger chunks of the activities that you're doing, and when are you doing them, on what days? And then also, for how long? So whatever the chunks are, whether it's marketing, sales, working with your team, for how long are you working on these chunks? Is it 2 hours? Is it 10 hours? These are the types of questions we really want to understand. What is our time? What are we spending our time on, and when is it happening, and for how much? So once we get that understanding, then we can use a tool which we call our time target, and then we can use this to really understand whether we're using that time effectively. So two specific aspects that we look at when we try to figure out whether our time is being used effectively is we look at whether the activity is urgent versus not urgent, and we also look to see whether it's important versus not important. So when we look at urgency, we want to say, for example, does it have to be done within the next week? So if it has to be done within the next week, it might be an urgent task. If it doesn't have to be done within the next week, it might be not urgent. And in terms of importance, we want to know, is this activity going to move us positively towards our goals? And if it does, it's going to be an important task. If it doesn't move us towards our goals, it's going to be not important. So the first target, or the first zone of the target you can see here on the screen are those activities that are both not urgent and they're not important. So this is an activity that doesn't have to be done within the next week, and it's not going to move us towards our goal. This might be something like surfing the web or checking out different articles online. We typically know when we're in this zone, and this is actually called our distraction zone. And you can see there, we really want to target about 10% of our time to be in the distraction zone. We don't really want to spend too much time there, but it's okay to take some breaks and whatnot. So the next zone we look at are those activities that are urgent, so they have to be done, let's say, within the next week, but they're not important. They're not going to move us towards our goals. In general, this is our delusion zone. And again, we want to spend about 10% of our time in this zone as well. These might be activities such as some specific phone calls or some specific emails that maybe they have to be returned, but they're not going to move you forward in your goals, especially for your business. The next zone we want to look at are those activities that are urgent and they are important. So these have to be done within the next week, and they're going to move you positively towards your goals. These might be sending out invoices or doing the actual work or producing your product or service. These are the activities that are going to fuel your business, and we want to spend a good portion of time. You can see we want to spend about 60% of our time, and this is what we call our demand zone. This is a very important zone for our business. The last zone are those activities that are not urgent, but they are important. So they don't have to be done within the next week or so, but they're going to move us positively towards our business goals. These might be activities like planning, or they might be going to an educational seminar, things that are going to move you positively towards your goals, but they don't have to be done today or in the next week. We want to spend about 20% of our time in this zone, because if we don't, what's going to happen is those activities are actually going to become urgent versus not urgent. So we want to spend the time on those activities while we can before they become urgent and we have to do them. So those are the different aspects we want to look at when we look to see is your time being used effectively. The next section is our planning mastery. So when we look at planning mastery, you can see here one of the aspects we want to look at in planning mastery is, do we have a default calendar or a default schedule? So you can see here on the screen, this is an example of what could be a default calendar for you. So you want to say, okay, purposely putting in, what activities am I going to do Monday morning? From 9 to 10, am I answering emails? From 10 to 12, am I doing some lead generation? And we want to set that for not just Monday morning, but Monday afternoon, and then Tuesday morning and Tuesday afternoon. We want to have a pretty good, solid understanding for what our week's going to look like on purpose, right? So, and things might come up, and that might not stick exactly the same, but we want to have a plan for our week in general, and we call that a default calendar. So we always work with our clients to come up with a default calendar so that they can make sure that they're working on the activities they need to be working on for certain periods of time that they know are the correct portions of time. And the last thing we look at is delegation mastery. So some of the things we look at when we look at delegating our tasks, we want to see First of all, we want to take a quick time log and try to figure out, well, what are the activities that we're currently doing? So take a look back at your last week. What are the activities you're doing? From there, you can start to get an understanding of which of those activities should be delegated. After that, you want to look for the things that you're sort of doing that you sort of want to do, but you don't need to do. Definitely want to pay attention to those tasks because likelihood is if you don't need to be doing them, you probably shouldn't be. So those are some tasks that are probably going to be delegatable. And then the next thing we want to look at is you also want to carve out, we say at least 5 hours, about 5 hours of time to be working on your business. So that might be writing processes or planning out some different things for your business. We want to spend at least 5 hours a week on those activities. Also, understand that delegation is not just about your employees doing the work, but it's also about you as the business owner letting go. It's about trusting your employees, understanding that you can't do everything yourself and you need your employees to perform and do good work for you. One of the other things we want to look at is when you do delegate, we want to make sure that you're not abdicating. Okay, and the difference there is that if I just say, hey, we have this activity to do, go do it, that's abdication. I don't know how that task is going to turn out. But if I take someone and I say, hey, this is the task we need to get done, this is roughly how it needs to be completed, this is when it needs to be completed, that is giving much more information to the employee and they're going to be set up for success. That is true delegation. When we do that, we also want to make sure that we're training our employees, we're assisting them, especially there at the start, to make sure that they're not going to flounder and sort of go nowhere. And then last but not least, you really want to try to start by delegating the basics. You start by delegating the basics. Typically, they might be a little bit easier, and you build from there. So those are a lot of the different things we want to look at for delegation mastery. If we do all those things correctly, the planning mastery, the self-mastery, and the delegation mastery, then you really make some solid impacts on your time mastery and your time management. So what do we do with all this information? Now it's time to get into action. So what are we going to do to get into action? We're going to now work on our marketing and lead generation. Some of the things we're going to be talking about in this topic are what to do with your website, but also how to generate some leads, right? So again, when you're doing your marketing as a small business owner, you really want to focus on, is it generating leads for your business? And if it's not, we need to make some adjustments there. So the first thing we're going to look at is your web design. The basics of web design, you want to keep it simple. You can see there, we want to stick with the AIDA rules of a marketing piece. So on your website, you want to stick with the AIDA rules, which stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. And we want it to be in that order. So on your website, you really want to start with something that generates attention or garners attention. So maybe it's a headline or maybe it's a picture. And then after that, you want to have some bullet points and start to generate some interest and desire for your prospects that are now viewing your website for maybe the first time. But last but not least, you want to have a call to action, potentially at the bottom of your web page. And that's where it could say, sign up for this newsletter, or call us now, or sign up for this offer. And that is going to be much more likely to generate a lead for your business versus someone just coming to your page and then leaving. So the second thing we want to look at is, there you can see there the second point is WIIFM, which you're saying, what the heck is that? It stands for what's in it for me. This is what your prospect is looking for. They want to know, what do I get from it? So I see a lot of websites that say, we are great, we've been around for 30 years, we're amazing. That's great, but your prospect wants to know, what do they get from that? What's the benefit to them? You get expertise, we do it right the first time, you get less hassle. Those are the things they're looking for. Another thing you want to make sure in your web design is that you put all the keywords that you need to get found on Google. So make sure you're putting it not just in the context of your website, but also if you post an image or a video, put those keywords into the description points so that those other aspects of your website are going to be found on your SEO and your Google searches as well. You also want to have linkages to other quality websites. And I emphasize the word quality because what Google wants to know is that your website is relevant. So if you're connected to a website that gets zero traffic and has zero information, or a non-quality website, that's not going to help your SEO. But if you're connected to 10 to 12 to 15 to 100 websites that are all quality and have a lot of traffic and pertinent information, that's going to help your SEO. You also want to use this Google Webmaster tool. It's a free tool. You can apply it to your website and it will tell you what aspects of your website are lacking SEO ability or capability. So that will help you figure those aspects out as well. And last but not least, you want to try to set up a Google Plus business page. You're trying to get found on Google, guess what? Google wants you to use their products and services. Google Plus is one of those things. So if you make a Google Plus webpage, that will help your SEO and you'll get found more often. When we look at the AIDA rules of a marketing piece, like I mentioned for your website, we want to understand that it's not just useful for your website, it's also useful for any marketing or, for example, direct mail outs that you might send. So you can see here in this slide, I'm highlighting Whataburger because I actually do a bunch of YouTube videos when I go out to businesses and see different strategies that they're using that are working very well. So I highlighted Whataburger because they sent me a direct mail piece that you can see me holding up there. And they used the AIDA rules very effectively. So in this marketing mail out that they sent, you can see they garnered interest with their headline, talking about the buffalo chicken strip sandwich. And then they had some interest and desire generated by showing me this juicy burger, juicy chicken sandwich here that you can see with crispy chicken and dripping sauce and melted cheese. And that's really, I'm getting thirsty, just hungry just thinking about it actually as I'm talking about it now. But last but not least, they had a call to action by saying this is only available for a limited time. So it's telling me as a prospect, hey, I need to get off my butt and go get this chicken strip sandwich before it's gone. So that's the type of principles we want to incorporate, not just in your website, but in your mail outs as well, and those are going to generate leads. So in addition to using the AIDA principles on send outs or marketing direct mail pieces, another example of a lead generator could be having having receipts that have coupons on them. So in this video, you can see here, I highlighted Starbucks because they actually have coupons on the bottom of their receipts, and I highlighted that basically how this worked was they gave me a coupon to come in and get a deal on a breakfast sandwich, but the key there was I couldn't use it when I walked in that day. I had to come back to use that coupon. So it's gonna, what's that gonna do? It's gonna create some interest for me to come back to Starbucks so I can use that coupon, and it gave me an end date. It was only good for a certain date. So I have to come back within, let's say, 2 weeks. Well, if I was only planning on coming back to Starbucks next month, well, guess what? I might come back a little bit sooner, and that means I'm gonna be buying more things from Starbucks more frequently. So this is an example where this strategy may not work on everybody, but if it works on 10% of your customers, guess what? You get 10% more business. So this is another strategy to really generate more leads for your business. Another strategy you can look at that's pretty low cost is strategic partners. So an example here you can see in the video is a partnership between Target and Starbucks. So I highlighted here in this video where I walked into a Target and I saw a Starbucks inside of Target. And I'm sure you may have seen this multiple places, but what this is doing is it's combining their marketing activities. So if I go look up Target on Google and I walk in and I go buy a product and I see Starbucks there, well, guess what? I might go to Starbucks and buy a coffee. Well, Starbucks is then going to be benefiting from the foot traffic that Target's marketing has generated. And by the same token, if I go in and I search for Starbucks and I walk in to go buy something from Starbucks, I might see Target's products and buy something from Target. So both of these companies are going to be benefiting from each other's marketing activities, and using that type of partnership is now increasing the leads that's being generated for both of their companies. So the question is, how can you in your business develop partnerships to either cross-refer or have maybe some products in another company's store? How can you use partnerships to increase the leads in your business? Another strategy we want to look at is referrals. Referrals is, if not free, it's relatively inexpensive. And I use an example here of a company you may have heard of before, Uber. I think we all know Uber's been exploding here, especially the last 5 years. And how have they done that? Well, one of the strategies they use is referrals. And I highlight here a couple snapshots of the app on my phone, which you can see they have free rides available. Well, what is a free ride? It's basically a referral. So you can see in the on the right-hand side of the details of they're saying, hey, if you refer someone to us, they get a free ride up to 20 bucks. And I don't know about you, but my first Uber ride was from a referral for a free $20 Uber ride. So it's just one of the aspects they use, but it's relatively inexpensive and it generates lots of referrals and lots of leads for that business. So again, how can you and your business generate leads with referrals? What referral systems do you have? Are you incentivizing someone to give you a referral? Do they get special pricing if they give you a referral? Do they get special pricing if they are a referral? So these are all the types of things we want to think about, that these are all strategies that can generate leads for your business for relatively inexpensive pricing. So those are just some of the different ways to generate leads and some of the different aspects to look at for when you're looking at your marketing. If you have any questions on any of this material, whether it's the time management or the marketing and the lead generation, feel free to contact me, send me an email, check out my website, give me a ring. My information's here. I'd love to talk to you about how these concepts apply specifically to your business. So like I said, if you have any questions, give me a call and I'd love to help out.